I was sitting in a sink the other day, and I use air quotes. It wasn't a meeting, it was a sink.
Oh, of course, async.
And someone with a completely straight face said we needed to, and I'm quoting here, circle back to drill down on the low-hanging fruit to maximize our bandwidth.
Wow.
And I had this genuine out-of-body experience. I just sort of stared at a whiteboard thinking, when did work become this linguistic puzzle? Why is everything so dense?
It's the fog of war.
Mm.
But the corporate style, we layer on all this complexity, I think, to signal competence.
Right.
The logic must be, if I use these big multisyllabic words, I must be doing big, important work.
But it's often just camouflage.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's hiding the fact that we're all just, well, people trying to get stuff done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is why I am surprisingly obsessed with the source we have for today's deep dive.
Okay.
We're looking at a text called English for the Workplace, Corporate Life and Managing Pressure. Now, full disclosure to you listening. On the surface, this is a dialogue for people learning English.
Right.
It's a conversation between a host, Melissa, and a corporate worker named Jack.
So on paper, it sounds incredibly basic.
Yeah.
Usually we're digging through, the Harvard Business Review or some complex white paper.
Totally.
But our mission today is a bit different. We're going to try and prove that because this source is so simple, it actually gives us a masterclass in workplace psychology.
It's like the emperor has no clothes approach to the office.
Mm.
By stripping away all the jargon I just made fun of, the synergies and the paradigm shifts, you're left with just the bare bones of what it means to survive a 9-to-5.
It forces us to look at the fundamental building blocks of our economic lives without any of the fancy dressing.
And this guy, Jack, he's our protagonist. He talks about everything. The mundane schedule, burnout, the social rules we all follow but never say out loud.
He deconstructs the office down to its, atomic level.
I found it so charming, but also a little confronting. There is something just so pure about Jack saying, I stand up and drink water as a solution to stress.
Right.
But, okay, before we get to the stress, and we will definitely get to the stress, let's unpack the world Jack lives in. Let's start with the anatomy of his day.
Let's do it. So Jack works in a generic corporate office, and his routine is fascinatingly rigid. He starts at 9 a.m. sharp.
And what's the very first thing he does?
He checks his emails.
Always.
Then he works on tasks.
And that's it. That's the morning.
It sounds so basic, but think about that rhythm for a second. It's the universal liturgy of the modern knowledge worker. The 9 a.m. start, the email check.
It's reactive.
It's an inherently reactive start to the day. Before you do your real work, your deep work, you have to first deal with all the incoming demands from other people.
That's a great point. He doesn't start with thinking or planning. He starts with checking. He opens the gates to the world before he builds his own castle for the day.
Exactly.
And then he mentions the lunch break at 1 gear p.m. So specific. Monday to Friday, lunch at 1. It just shows how much our lives are governed by these arbitrary time blocks.
It's the industrialization of knowledge work. We still treat our jobs like factory shifts, even when the output is ideas, not widgets.
For sure. But what I found really compelling was the vocabulary section. The source lists these building blocks of office life.
Where are they?
Office, team, meeting, manager, task, deadline.
Deadline. Wow, that word always feels so much heavier when you see it on its own like that.
It feels heavy.
Well, it is. Historically, I mean. The word deadline actually comes from the American Civil War. It was a line drawn around a prison, and if a prisoner crossed it...
They were shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stakes in the office aren't quite that high.
Not quite, but the pressure is still real. It implies a definitive end, a line you cannot cross.
And Jack says his meetings, which are usually in the morning, are almost always about plans and deadlines.
So the primary function of a meeting, at least in his world, is just negotiating time.
We're not meeting to do the work.
We're meeting to talk about when the work will be done. And that's a huge distinction, and it's why so many people get frustrated with meetings. For them, the meeting is the obstacle to the work.
Whereas for the manager, the meeting is the work.
Precisely.
But Jack isn't just some robot. He actually likes this whole setup. He says, I like corporate work.
And his reason is surprisingly wholesome.
It's the people. He says, my team is friendly.
And that seems to be the one variable that matters more than anything else. Not the salary, not the prestige.
Just whether the person in the cubicle next to you is nice.
We think of corporations as these giant, faceless things. But Jack reminds us that at the team level, it's just a little tribe.
And if the tribe is friendly, the deadlines are bearable.
And if it's toxic, even the best job in the world becomes a nightmare. Psychological safety is the bedrock.
Speaking of nightmares, let's pivot. The deep dive takes a sharp turn when the interviewer asks Jack about work pressure.
Ah, yes. And this is where the simplicity of this source becomes like sheer genius. We have all these complex models for stress,
Yeah.
cortisol levels, burnout inventories.
Right. But how does Jack define it?
He says work pressure is feeling stressed because there is too much work or time is short.
Time is short. That's almost poetic in how brief it is. It just cuts through all the noise about resource allocation or capacity planning.
Time is short. We have finite hours and infinite demands.
And he shares this story from last year that I think everyone can relate to. He says he drowned in meetings and emails, felt tired every day, and this part really hit home for me. He could not relax after work.
That's the bleed over. That's when the stress response just fails to shut down. He's describing burnout. But notice his main symptom wasn't anger. It was fatigue.
He was just tired. The battery was draining faster than it could recharge.
So what does our corporate philosopher do to fix this? He doesn't go on a sabbatical? He doesn't quit his job?
No, his first solution is so beautifully analog. He wrote his tasks on paper.
I love this. The paper solution.
He says, when I see my tasks, I feel more calm.
Why does that work? Is that just like a placebo effect?
No, not at all. There's real psychology behind it. It's called cognitive offloading.
Okay.
When you hold a to-do list in your head, your brain is constantly running this little loop to make sure you don't forget anything. It's called the Zeigarnik effect.
So your brain is just spinning its wheels, trying not to lose the data?
Exactly. By putting it on paper, you're telling your brain, hey, it's safe. You can stop holding this now. You're outsourcing your memory to the page, freeing up RAM.
I love that idea. Pager as an external hard drive. But he doesn't stop there. The source suggests these physical interventions that are almost comical.
Like what?
Take short breaks. Stand up. Drink water.
And you're laughing. I can hear it. But think about the last time you were super stressed at your desk. You were probably hunched over, breathing shallowly, dehydrated.
Guilty. I turn into a gargoyle, frozen in place. Right. Jack's advice. Stand up. Drink water. It's about breaking that physiological state of stress. You can't think your way out of it. Sometimes you have to physically interrupt it.
So standing up changes your posture, your blood pressure.
And drinking water activates the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system. Biologically, your body knows it can't be in mortal danger if it has time to stop for a drink.
That's fascinating. So you're basically tricking your lizard brain into realizing an email isn't a tiger.
You are. But the biggest breakthrough for Jack wasn't the water or the paper.
No, those were symptoms.
They were coping mechanisms. The solution to the cause was social.
He talked to his manager.
He talked to his manager. He asked for help.
And the result? The manager understood, and the work became easier.
It sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it highlights this huge assumption we all make that we're supposed to suffer in silence. Jack realizes the manager's job is to manage the work.
So if there's too much work, that's a management problem, not just a Jack problem. But asking for help is so scary. I think for a lot of us, it feels like admitting defeat.
For sure.
And that leads us perfectly into the next section, the rookie trap. Because Jack wasn't always this wise sage of hydration and list making.
Ah, yes, what I call the skills fallacy.
Explain that.
Well, Jack says he thought his technical skills were enough. You know, if he was good at the tasks, coding, writing, whatever, he'd be fine.
But he didn't prepare his mindset.
Exactly. Or learn time management. We teach people the hard skills, but we rarely teach them how to just exist in an office.
And he fell into the lone wolf error. He says on his first job, he tried to do everything alone because he was afraid to look weak.
Oof, that phrase. Afraid to look weak. That is the toxic little seed that kills so many careers before they even start. The ego gets in the way of the outcome.
It really is. And the consequence, he says, wasn't that he looked strong. It just led to mistakes. And the work took longer.
Of course it did, because he was guessing. He was struggling in isolation instead of using the collective brain power of the room.
It's the paradox of vulnerability. We think asking questions makes us look stupid.
When it actually makes you look engaged and careful.
So the correction was learning to ask questions. And the source says explicitly, people will help you if you ask.
And that leads to relaxation. It's a chain of events. Vulnerability leads to assistance, which leads to efficiency, which leads to relaxation.
If you break the chain at the start by trying to be a tough guy, you just end up stressed and wrong.
Yeah. The text emphasizes these three key words: preparation, mistake, and confidence.
And I find it so interesting that mistake is treated as a noun here, a thing that happens, not a character flaw.
Right. It's I made a mistake, not I am a mistake.
Yeah.
That is a huge difference in mindset.
So, okay, Jack has mastered his own anxiety, but now he has to deal with other people. Section 4 is all about the unwritten rules of office etiquette.
And again, the source material is just brutally simple. How should a new person behave?
Be polite, be calm, listen more.
Listen more. If we could just enforce that one rule in every conference room in the world.
BDP would double.
Probably.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to broadcast, to push our agenda. Jack is saying reception is just as important as transmission.
And for conflict resolution, the rule is do not argue too much.
I like the nuance there. Doesn't say do not argue.
Yeah.
It says do not argue too much. It admits that friction is part of the process. But there's a line, like, where it stops being about the work and starts being about ego.
And then we get to managing up, how to treat the boss, respect them, be clear and honest, and then he drops this little nugget. Do not complain too much.
Jack's a pragmatist. He knows nobody likes a constant source of negativity. There's a difference between raising a problem and just complaining.
One seeks a solution, the other seeks pity.
Well said.
But the most interesting piece of advice for me was about presentation. Speak clearly. Use simple words.
In a world of synergy, Jack is telling us clarity is king. Using simple words isn't about being dumb, it's about being understood. It's actually harder. Buzzwords are a crutch.
And he distinguishes between confidence and volume. The source says, be confident, not loud.
That's a distinction that many senior executives still haven't learned.
Seriously, I think we confuse volume for authority all the time. But Jack says confidence comes from practice, not shouting.
Which goes back to the preparation point. If you've done the work, you don't need to shout. Quiet confidence is always more effective than loud insecurity.
And finally, for colleagues, a strict rule. Do not gossip.
Because relationships matter a lot. If you gossip, you kill trust. And if you kill trust, that friendly team Jack loves becomes a hostile one.
The whole system falls apart. It's like a Jenga tower. You pull out the trust block, and the deadlines and tasks all come crashing down.
That's a perfect visual. You can't have high performance without high trust. It's impossible.
Okay, so let's move to the final piece of the puzzle. We've covered the day, the stress, the mistakes, the people. Now for the holy grail, work-life balance.
Or as Jack calls it, separating work and home.
Jack has a strict protocol. When he's at home, he rests, and he explicitly states, this felt like a radical act to me. He does not check emails at home.
In this day and age, that is a radical act. We carry our offices in our pockets. The boundary is completely dissolved.
We really do. But Jack's logic is undeniable. He defines balance in a very specific way.
What's his definition?
Work and rest together.
I want to pause on that.
Yeah.
Work and rest together. Not work versus rest, not work then rest, but as two halves of a whole system.
Like breathing.
Exactly. You can't just breathe out forever. You have to inhale. You can't have sustainable work without real rest.
And he connects this to respect. The source defines respect as just being polite, but in this context, there's a self-respect angle too, isn't there?
Absolutely. When Jack says, I do not check emails, he is respecting his own boundaries. And by doing that, he's teaching his team how to treat him.
That's it. If you answer emails at 11 p.m., you're teaching people you're available at 11 p.m.
You're training them to interrupt your rest.
Yeah.
Jack teaches them that after 6 o'clock, he's a ghost.
I aspire to be a ghost.
We all do.
The source ends with some final wisdom from Jack on career growth. He says two things that I think we should just tattoo on our foreheads. First, everyone learns slowly.
That's the perfect antidote to hustle culture, isn't it? The idea that you have to be a VP by 25. Everyone learns slowly. It gives you permission to be a beginner. It gives you patience.
And the second thing, do not compare yourself.
The thief of joy. In a corporate structure, looking sideways at who got promoted or who got the bigger project is the fastest path to misery.
Jack just stays in his lane. He plays his own game.
He does.
It really is a masterclass. We started with checking emails at 9 a.m., and we ended with the decision to stop checking them at home.
It's a journey from reactivity to proactivity.
Walk me through that.
Well, Jack starts as a victim of his schedule. Time is short. Too much work. He's reacting to the flood.
Right.
But through this cycle of preparation, admitting mistakes, and communication, he gains agency. He realizes that looking weak by asking for help is actually the strength that lets him survive.
He moves from being managed by the job to managing himself within the job.
Exactly. And I think that's the key takeaway here. We looked at this simple English text, and what we found was some pretty high-level emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The solution to these complex corporate problems is often simple behavior. You don't need a fancy productivity app. You need a piece of paper. You don't need a keynote on resilience. You need to tell your boss, I need help.
It's funny, if you used fancy words for this, people would pay thousands for it. If you called it cognitive load management via analog transcription, they'd buy the book.
Right. But Jack just calls it writing tasks on paper.
And that's the beauty of it. The jargon we made fun of at the start, that's armor. We wear it to feel smart and safe.
And Jack just strips the armor off and says, this is hard, I'm tired, I need help, and I'm going to go drink some water.
So here's where we'll leave you today. We want to leave you with a final thought, a provocation based on all this.
We talked about Jack's definition of balance, work and rest together. I want you to look at your own week and ask yourself, are you actually balancing? Or are you just oscillating?
Ooh. Say more about that. What's the difference?
Well, balance is a steady state where the two coexist. Oscillating is just redlining your engine until you crash, sleeping for a weekend, and then redlining it again on Monday.
That's not balance.
No, that's just alternating between stress and exhaustion. Jack's method, the daily breaks, the hard stop, creates real balance. Most of us, I think, are just crashing.
Alternating between stress and exhaustion. I feel seen, and I do not like it.
Jack would tell you to go drink some water.
He would, and he'd tell me to close my email. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Thank you for diving deep with us into the surprisingly profound world of English for the workplace.
It was a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Keep it simple out there.